The first game of the regular season for the Ottawa Senators is over, defeating the Florida Panthers 3-1 at home. As you can see, I've added the note onto the board here already, and as the season goes on, each game that I mark as notable will be pinned up on the board here. And thankfully, a season opener has been a lucky thing for Senators in recent years. Their record has been pretty good, and they should keep the momentum heading into the rest of the season. Also, as you can see from the previous episode, I added up the bingo card that I mentioned. If you want to see it yourself and also use the template that they made, the @ for on Twitter is right here, Agitated Bicycle. But also, as you can see, 2 X's have been marked off. While the middle is a free space, it also says too many men penalty, which I think I have to properly wait for, though it will happen pretty soon on, I imagine. And 2 spots, including the Ullmark extension and we finally beat Florida, have been marked off, though it doesn't look like bingo is going to happen anytime soon. The Ottawa Senators had a pretty good game against Florida, and before we hop into a little bit of pre-game involving their next matchup, which you can see on the top right of the board, is against the Montreal Canadiens on October 12th at 7 p.m. The stats, I feel like, deserve a little bit of researching for their recent win. To start, Jensen, one of Ottawa's key new signings, a defensive defenseman that was sought to help Chabot ease into his role, especially after his surgery that helped fix his injury that he basically worked through most of the previous season. He ended the game with a +2, which is pretty notable considering that Chabot himself actually finished with a flat 0 in the plus-minus. Jensen was really noticeable in that game in a good way. He diffused a lot of situations, and he helped keep the play moving while also getting a couple of decent shots on Bobrovsky. Also, as you can even see from the card, Stützle had 2 goals in the game. One on the power play early on, I would say, can't remember if it's a glove side, but it was short side on the right on Bobrovsky, and it was a very nice snipe from Stützle. He already matched his total from the previous season in power play goals in 1 game, which goes to show how it was, while not clear, pretty evident that Stützle himself had an injury he was working through in the previous season, and the offseason has given him time to rework on his wrist shot and make sure it was just as powerful as it was in the year where he scored 39 goals. When it comes to time on ice, the Chabot Award for most time on ice, it was actually Sanderson that led all players on the Senators with time on ice with 24 minutes and 48 seconds. And it was also pretty important too, because in a game where the Senators had 30 blocked shots, Sanderson led the team with 7 of them. Another notable thing, which I feel like we're going to be talking about quite a lot this year, especially since I brought it up in my first episode, is Josh Norris. I really hope he doesn't end up on the injury side of the board here. And even if he does, I hope it's not for long term, because he actually looked very, not only good, but physical in the game against Florida. He had 2 hits, both of them are pretty significant, and he also had a lot of board battles. But not only did he assist on the power play goal with Stützle, but he had a very good game in the faceoff dot with 62.5%. Now, obviously, Norris, we're always careful with him around faceoffs for good reason. He injured his shoulder on a faceoff draw in the past. So seeing that he's comfortable taking faceoffs, he's winning faceoffs, and he's hitting kind of goes to show that, well, fingers crossed, the injury that he sustained, he's healed pretty well from. And unfortunately, when it comes to injuries, the Florida Panthers sustained one to one of their key players, Sasha Barkov. In the final goal of the game, on an empty netter, Tim Stützle scored after Alexander Barkov broke his stick, which led to an odd man rush, effectively. Brady Tkachuk lobbed the puck while Tim Stützle finished it. But in that moment, Barkov was trying his best to prevent the goal, and in doing so, he slid into the boards and hit into them awkwardly. And while it did seem quite severe as he needed quite a bit of help to get off the ice, David Pagnotta of the 4th period actually tweeted about the injury, and he confirmed it to be not a significant injury. And it seems that Alexander Barkov is out week to week. Now, despite the fact that obviously it was a pretty rough and tumble game, a lot of physicality, nothing but the best for Sasha Barkov in his healing process. So now, the Senators will be facing off next against the Montreal Canadiens tomorrow at 7 p.m. at the Bell Center. This is a pretty important game for both the Sens and Montreal. Montreal is trying to rebound back from a game against the Bruins in which they lost 6-4. And for Sens fans out there, Mark Kastelik, who was traded to the Bruins in the Ullmark trade, scored 2 goals against them. In fact, people were joking on how Mark Kastelik scored the same amount of goals as Tim Stützle did last night, which is factually true. Not only are Montreal trying to rebound back, but Ottawa's trying to keep the form going, which I feel is very important for them. Their early season performances have been very hit or miss, or in recent years, more miss than hit. And this is a really good game to take opportunity of an opponent that most likely is going to finish beneath them in the division and get some easy points to keep the momentum rolling heading into their next games over the weekend. Also, for fans who are going to the Thanksgiving 1 p.m. game against the Los Angeles Kings, there's been a bit of a, let's say, problem with the memorabilia that the Sens were set to give away with the game. The plan was to give away 10,000 special gravy boats to fans, whether ones that arrived early or through randomness. I'm not personally sure, but it's not a big deal, at least not that important, because there won't be any gravy boats. According to Chris Johnston, he stated that the gravy boats themselves were part of a shipment that arrived at Halifax, and because of a labor dispute, those gravy boats aren't coming to the rink. So instead, what the Sens will be offering will be free soft drinks and popcorn to people who either arrive early or random, or maybe potentially at this point for all fans. While that isn't fully confirmed, let's just say that fans won't be getting their own Sens gravy boats to use either at this year's Thanksgiving or next year's. Aside from that, that is all for your daily news on October 11th, 2024. I'm Michael Char. Thank you once again. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And hopefully the Sens can get their second win of the season in their second game.